Okay, as I was saying in the previous video, a suggestion had been made that I remove the stern from the deck just like I did with the bow. That's this piece right here. That way I can go ahead and glue this down without affecting anything else on the model and start filling these atrocious gaps around here. And I'm telling you, they are really, really bad. And I'm not even sure how I'm going to fix a couple of them because they're going to have to be pulled in tight. I'll have to use a rubber band or something. I can then go ahead and put on some of the details that go on the stern. I'll put some pictures up here, and you should be able to clearly see how smooth those lines should be. There should be no seam whatsoever on this stern. I'm also probably going to put in some scuppers. I think there are 3 scuppers around each one of these gun tubs. And of course they're no longer used as gun tubs. Those were World War II gun tubs where they put in, I think, the Bofors mounts. And they were removed long before '82. But I can go ahead and put the rest of the detail that goes on back here, and this will all be done so that I can just concentrate on the work that needs to be done in the rest of the ship. So that's a step. Now, how did I cut that out? That shouldn't be a surprise to most of you. I had mentioned I was going to use a panel scriber and an X-Acto knife. Well, it was suggested, again, by the same person that said I should cut it out, to use thread. Now that, as soon as I got his email and he said use thread to cut it, something in the back of my mind just popped up. Old memory or something. And I had been thinking about some kind of a flexible cutter. So I asked him if he put anything on it, like a rubbing compound or whatever, and he said no, he just used thread and let the friction do the cutting, but you can go around corners and everything fairly easily. Well, I started it, and actually it cut reasonably well, and I've got some very nice lines here. And then I woke up in the middle of the night, the next night, and I remembered that I used to cut styrene with dental floss. So I got some dental floss. I got some thread. Now this is sail thread. This is what was left from a roll I started in the sail locker on a ship many, many years ago. I've used it off and on for odds and ends. This runs through a large double stitcher machine for sewing canvas and other heavy-duty products. So I got this and used this to start cutting my stern off my New Jersey. I then went and got this. This is simply what it looks like. It's Oral-B dental floss. I get it free from my dentist, so it didn't cost me anything to give it a try. That worked well. Some fairly complex angles and what have you, and practically no sanding or filing is required. I can glue it right back up as soon as I'm ready to put the main deck back on. That'll be some time yet because I'm trying to get a lot of details completed. So that worked well for me. I still have problem with, and will always have problem with, the scale back here. Something about it is not correct, and I don't know what it is exactly. I think it's in this radius back here. I think the radius came in too tight. I'll put up here a picture of the stern again. You can see that the chocks back here are pretty well centered. They're not overlapped by these gun tubs, and yet when I put them in here, one's going to be over here and one's going to be over here, and that's just the wrong placement for those. There's just not enough room in here, and the only thing I can say is it's just the angle of this curve. They curved it in too far back here. It needed to maybe be a little wider, but I'm not gonna worry about that. It'll look all right when it's done, and I've got a few other things I'm going to do as time goes on back there. Possibly some of these hatches, I may replace them with some aftermarket PE, since I'm using so much of it anyway. So that's a big step forward on this part of it, and I'll move on with gluing that down, fitting it up, and putting it in. And just so you can get a good idea, let me take off, and I don't know if it'll focus. There, that's not too bad. Well, it goes in and out. Well, as bad as the focus is, you can see these dark spots on either side of the gun tubs, here and over here. Those are just holes that do not exist. Those are holes that do not exist, and it's my intention to try to fill all that and make it look more like the actual ship. So, and then I've still got this piece to build back here. And my problem with it so far has been that the half round that I can get at the hobby store is about twice too big. So I'm in the process of sanding that down to the right dimension. I'll reinforce this piece so that I can, when I get it back in, I can get it aligned really well. I may have to go to this other camera. So that's what I'm working on now, and I'll move forward with that. Okay, let's talk about 5-inch 38s. Now here's a couple of pictures. My friend Pete Newport in Holland, he's building in New Jersey, and he's done a lot of research and has found some pictures showing blast bags on the 5-inch 38s. Now, the problem with those pictures is they were from 1945. This first picture I'm going to show you, if you look at it closely, you can kind of see the blast bags, but they're stretched because the guns are pointing straight in the air. If you look down at the, I think the lower right hand side of the screen, you'll see some black hoses going over. Well, that's because they were in an unrep exercise. That's underway replenishment, and they were being refueled. Obviously, you don't want your guns pointing at a friendly just in case something happens. And of course, you know, Murphy's Law, something will happen if it can. So they point the gun straight up. Well, this next picture is a really good picture from a yard period in that same time frame, and they clearly are bagged. Well, that was the technology of the day. So if you look at those bags, that's fine. I've got the bags, but I'm doing a 1982 version, so I found a picture on my own. This is the picture that I'm going to go by, and because that particular picture doesn't show any bags, I'm not going to put bags on these guns. So that means I'll be taking these and I'll putting a barrel on each one of them, and I've found that's tedious so far. I've been trying to drill them out just a little bit more so I can get the barrels in there nice and snug, and then I'll drop some super glue on it and I'll be done. Then these will be cut off of here and be put into the bodies of the guns that are here. So I've got that problem pretty well resolved in my mind, and I'm in the process of working that out with all of the barrels. So that will take care of that. Okay, let's talk about the saga of the SH-60 Seahawk helicopters. This was the one that the model called out. The ones in the model were just really Nothing. There was nothing to them. So I bought these resin models, and then I was told that these didn't actually come on board to New Jersey until sometime after '82. And like I said in the last video, I could easily say this is just '82 or later and do it the way I want to. But just for kicks, I went ahead and ordered the appropriate helicopters for it, and it should be here by the end of the month. They're coming all the way from China on a slow boat, I suspect. So I'll get those by the end of the month of October, hopefully. So anyway, I've got that underway.